Welcome. I'm Alice Alicia Jones, and it's not quite 1 o'clock yet. It still says 12:59. It just turned to 1 at this moment. So I'm going to start the presentation today. And for some reason, I'm not sure why, the Facebook wouldn't give me the title description, but it's Living Consciously Soul's Journey. But I do have a description of what I'm going to cover in the property. I'm going to cover the fact that the monad becomes the 12 souls and turns into 12 which turn into 12 soul personalities. So there's 144 aspects of you. I'm going to cover doppelgangers. I'm going to cover past lives and the Gnostic Gospels. So it's a really quick overview of a lot of subjects, but the beauty is that most people are just starting to become aware of the fact that there is something really unusual going on. And by this, I mean that everything that they experience, they can have a tinge of spirituality attached to it. And this is absolutely needed for today's environment because basically, um, the part of us that is connected to God is called the monad. This is the spiritual aspect of ourselves that never leaves God and never leaves us. The monad splits into 12 souls, and each soul splits into a soul personality. So if you multiply 12 times 12, you get 144 pieces. That means there are 144 aspects of you, exactly as you are, running around this universe, sometimes running around the same planet. This was really brought out very, very forcefully by an article, and I presume it was in Parade magazine about maybe 6 months ago, because what they showed was pictures of two celebrities. The first one they showed was Tom Cruise, and then they showed his picture, and then they showed the picture of his stunt double. You looked at them, as you looked at them, as you just gazed on the face, you saw virtually what looked to you may have looked to you like exactly the same man. At least that's what it did to me. And so I was absolutely astonished when I watched this. And I realized that, no, I keep thinking, yeah, but I'll find a difference. But then which one was the real Tom Cruise? The the this phenomena is called doppelganger. They also had a picture of Leonardo DiCaprio, and they showed a man in Ohio that is doubling as Leonardo DiCaprio in parties and in affairs of such that want a celebrity. And so, anyway, again, an absolutely identical picture of the same man. This is called a doppelganger. So you know that this is possible. I know myself when I was a teenager, we lived in Grand Rapids, Michigan. Well, the expensive part of town was called East Grand Rapids. And East Grand Rapids was very, very wealthy. It was kind of like the Grosse Point in Detroit. And there was one time when they had a picture of four socialites on the style section of the paper, the Grand Rapids Press, and each one was an intended bride to be. So each one was an engagement picture. And as I opened one Saturday's paper and looked at the picture, it was like I was looking at myself. And the irony was that as I looked at her, I kept thinking, but what's different about me? And I could find nothing in the picture that I was looking at. So I truly felt that, at least for that moment in time, I saw a doppelganger of myself. So that was kind of neat. One of the things that I've read somewhere along the line, which I want to share with you, is that who are celebrities? They are people who had past lives where they were completely ignored. So in this lifetime, they wanted to have notoriety. They wanted to be visible. They wanted to be known. They wanted to be out there in television, in movies, in radio. And now, of course, the celebrities, extend into the internet because there's influencers. And if any of you are Dancing with the Star fans, you recognize that in today's season, I think there's 5 of them that are called stars that are influencers. So that's kind of neat. Um, in terms of past lives, I wanted to share with you something that I saw maybe 2 years ago, the story of John Paul Getty's nephew. No, I'm sorry, grandson, the one who was kidnapped, held for ransom, and John Paul Getty refused to pay the, I think, $13 million that they were insisting on paying, getting, and for this child. So they cut off his ear and they sent it. And of course, the mother became hysterical and she became absolutely convinced John Paul Getty to give the money that was demanded at that time. I think the price had gone down to 5 million. I know that there had been a reduction in price, and she was determined she was going to get her son back alive, which she did, fortunately. And the irony about that, you have to listen for it very carefully because there is one scene in, and the movie is called All the Money in the World, and it's a 2015 production. And I'm sure it's on Netflix because I'm pretty sure that's how we pulled it up. But he John Paul Getty says, because I think at that moment in time, he's living overseas. And says something to the effect of, the second that I stepped into Hadrian's palace, I knew that that is who I was. Like I said, you have to listen for it very, very carefully because it can just fly over your head if you aren't paying attention. So uh, he, and I looked up Hadrian. Every single child who, if they don't know the name of most of the Roman emperors, they do know Hadrian because of the fact that he left Hadrian's Wall in England. And there are so many places that Hadrian's Wall is still visible and is still accessible. And you can walk on it. We walked on it for just a few short feet. And so when I did a little research on Hadrian today, I found out that he made his palace outside of Rome at a place called Tivoli. And in it, because he spent so much of his life touring the reaches of the empire, and he was considered one of the five great emperors of Rome, because they went through some absolutely horrible emperors. But in the five, he was considered one of the five great emperors. So in Tivoli, he brought back the finest uh, plans, architectural plans, and the finest gardens. And so he had this estate in Tivoli, um, built according to those plans, which must have given him tremendous pleasure. He really did not live that long because he was emperor from 117 AD to 138 AD. And I think he started the palace in Tivoli at 134 AD. So it wasn't a very long time that he got to enjoy it. But the other thing that I wanted to share with you about Hadrian was the fact that if you've ever been to the Vatican, right next to the enormous plaza that is in front of the Vatican, where the Egyptian obelisk is, and off to the kind of like the entrance of the Vatican is the Castle de Angelo. And that is Hadrian's mausoleum. That is the resting place of his body. So if you're planning a trip to Rome, please, please, please go to these places. I think that you will uh, get more of a sense of the fact that, oh my gosh, this soul then reincarnated as John Paul Getty. I always wondered about what do souls do when they are so wealthy, when they are so well known, when they are so used to um, giving orders and having their orders commanded. What do they come back at? Do they come back then as uh, as an impoverished beggar? They can, if that's what they chose for themselves. But in this case, Hadrian chose to have a life as one of America's richest men. And my understanding with and I think this was also in the movie, that All the Money in the World, is that his three grandchildren inherited his estate. And they, because of what happened to him, because of what happened to one of the grandsons, they decided to take it, make it into like a museum. It's an art gallery, it's beautiful grounds, and it's open to the public. So, and I believe it's in LA, somewhere around LA. I've never seen it, but I'm looking forward to going there because my godson is getting married next 4th of July. Oh, no, I guess that was originally the plan, 30th of July. And we will hopefully go for a week to enjoy some of the sites around LA. Let's see what else I wanted to share you. Oh, this is something I received personally from one of my guides. When I was listening I'm a great fan of Alfred Lloyd Webber. And when I was listening to the recording of The Phantom of the Opera, all of a sudden I had a vision of him being Mozart in a past life. At the time I was listening to the movie, The Phantom of the Opera, or listening to the soundtrack of it, they Alfred Lloyd Webber had 18 plays running simultaneously in London, and in the United States. So I felt, well, Mozart died at 33, and he was such a prolific composer. And Alfred Lloyd Webber is also was an amazingly prolific composer, and brought these magnificent musicals to the screen. I um, I just I've never seen that verified anywhere, but at least, like I said, I got that. And there's one more thing about past lives that I wanted to share with you that I just was so fascinated about. There's a movie with Michael Caine. At this point, it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 15 to 20 years old, but I think you can still find it. I must have seen this maybe 10 years ago. And again, probably on Netflix, because at that time, that's the only um, thing that we were or we could have also been part of. No, I think at that point we were part of HBO as well as Netflix. But the movie is called Little Voice, and it's a young woman. It's a story, it's almost like a documentary. It's a story about a young woman who actually channels the voices of movie stars that have passed into spirit. The two I remember, Marilyn Monroe and Judy Garland. I don't remember the other voices that she channeled, but find it. You will be fascinated. I don't think she ever made any headlines for herself. I think in a sense people were a little creeped out over the fact that she was able to sing and bring the same absolutely identical song that that the star did. So I thought that was amazing. And and the last thing that I wanted to cover with you today, because people keep asking me, how do you raise your vibrations in order to become more spiritual? What do you do? And one of the things that happened to me recently that I want to share with you is that I tried to become a vegan because of the fact that I had issues with AFib, and to the point where I had the paddle put on my heart to get my heart back into rhythm. And that didn't work. And so they put me on one more pill. It's a blood thinner. And they want me tested for the possibility of two more pills. Well, I figured because they said that I have clogged artery, and also that the heart is that they want to see if I can't um, get the heart back into rhythm with meds. So they want me on two more pills. I'm so resistant to medication that I thought, okay, this is not what I want for myself. This is not what I'm able to or just be okay with, even though I'm being encouraged in multiple directions to take the pills. And but it's not what I want. So I thought, okay, if my artery is clogged, that means that my diet put me there. And if my diet put me there, my diet can free me from this, can eliminate the clogging. Well, like I said, the vegan, I bought a book called like Reverse Heart Disease, and I bought the book, and he had, God bless him, he had 150 recipes in there, mainly all centered on beans. Well, I like beans, but I don't love beans. So I I felt I didn't feel that I could continue with a diet of beans the rest of my life. So I started to think about what else I could do. That meat was out of the question. So I went pescatarian. I then just decided that the shrimp, scallops, crab, lobster, and fish were going to be okay. And so far, they're fine. They're working for me, and I'm able to have that. The amazing thing with me is that I feel lighter. And my daughter in law, who's a pescatarian, said exactly the same thing. She felt lighter when she decided that she was going to give up meat. Um, I happen to like meat. I'm I stopped eating things that were bloody, like rare beef, rare hamburger, rare roast beef, and kind of gave up any kind of beef in general, except for maybe meatballs. Those spaghetti and meatballs are just like that's one of my favorite meals. But I figured, okay, if this is something that I have to do for myself, I'm going to do it. And so for right now, I'm able to do this. I'm able to hold on to this vegetarian, pescatarian diet. I've also been able to eliminate mainly uh, the cheeses, ice creams, sour cream, um, milk, but again, using it very sparingly when, like I had, my husband made spinach and creamed spinach. And of course, that's sour cream. So I suppose you could make it with Greek yogurt, but he made it with sour cream, and I ate that. And so, anyway, when I, one of the things that I read in the Gnostic Gospels when I was like pursuing a lot of information from them was the dietary rules. They basically say one main meal a day. Could I be happy with that? I don't think so. I'm so far, I'm sticking to 3 meals a day, but in the breakfast, strictly oatmeal. And the oatmeal then is, and it's the steel cut oatmeal. It's the one that you have to cook for 45 minutes. And because I choose to make 4 servings at a time, I've had to cook it for a couple hours because the water just didn't get absorbed. And so the thing was though that I had on top of the oatmeal, I just covered the whole thing with cinnamon, and then I put a little bit of nutmeg, no salt, no butter, but then I mixed that up so that the oatmeal turned kind of brownish. And then I put a heaping cup of fruit because we do have a fruit salad that's there. And then my lunch is typically a salad, and then my dinner is a hot meal. But the Gnostic gospel, will I ever be able to get to one main meal a day? I'm not certain. But one of the other things before I leave, because I know I'm running a little bit late here again, in the Gnostic gospel is the value of rituals. Always saying grace on top of your food, always placing your hands and having the light radiate from your hands into your food, the value of gratitude, living in an attitude of gratitude, being happy no matter what happens in your life, and the value of blessing. So I bless you. And if you need a meditation guide, this is the best that is out there. Own Your Power, day by day. It's written by Spirit. I was the channel. Fabulous book. Every day you read 2 pages. So don't let the 750 pages intimidate you, thinking, oh my God, I got to get this down. It'll take you a year to get through it. So, anyway, I bless you for being here, for watching this. I thank you, and I will see you next week, Friday, with another topic of living consciously. I'm Alice Alicia Jones. My website is www.alicia, ALICJA, Jones.com. I will be teaching Reiki 2 in October 30th. If any of you are interested in either refreshing your Reiki or taking it for the first time, and then Reiki 3 in November, and then I start the whole cycle again in January. So we will see you next week. Thank you.